So yesterday I did a live video. Unfortunately, the sound was really bad, so I thought I'd actually go into my car instead of trying to stand out with the traffic in the background and go through the video again. Um, so what I started talking about was some of the typical transition phases that happen when somebody wants to make some changes to the way they eat. Obviously, there'll be some other changes that are different when you're taking up some other lifestyle habits, such as exercise and that. But when it comes to our diet and nutrition, and it doesn't matter what level you're at, so you could be someone who's regularly exercising or someone who's just starting. It doesn't matter where you're in the journey, but any adjustments to your nutrition plan will invoke some sort of, I guess, change phases or resistance phases, right, which are pretty entertaining. And I've been guilty of some of these myself. So I'm going to talk about three of the common ones. The first one that comes to mind is the, I guess, resistance phase that I see happen, or change phase, is the negotiation phase. So this is where someone gets their plan, and even though they're really keen around it, and this can be for someone who's even moving to a lifestyle plan, so it's less stringent, it's more recipes and sort of fun kind of foods, but we're potentially taking some foods and doing some healthy upgrades. Or it could be an athlete that's getting ready for competition, or someone who's looking to do a body recomposition and getting a little bit more structured in their nutrition plan. So it's very different. But the same phase happens, right? And this is the negotiation phase. And what you'll find is that people look at the plan and they love it, but then they'll start looking at things and go, but what if I did this? And what if I replaced this with this? And all that sort of thing. Now, some of these things can actually be replaced with like for like things, but a lot of the times when I work with clients, we've already taken into considerations food preferences. We're taking in sometimes nutrient timing, other times we're taking in optimizing uh, gut health, all those sorts of things. So there's a design for each of those things. And yeah, so the negotiation phase happens, which is pretty funny. And then there's a realization that actually the plan's really good and they'll try that first and then move through it. So where accommodations can't be made. One of the other phases that comes through, which always happens, and sometimes I'm guilty of this as well, is the, oh my God, how am I going to get through all this food? So there's almost this fear that comes up around looking at the plan and just going, that's so many meals, it's a lot of food. It looks really complicated. It's not really complicated. It's more around the volume of food. So even though if you are a clean eater, sometimes getting back into eating more calories or more volume of food, which might be less calories, it's still a very daunting task, right? And then it's the change of actually having to adapt to changing what you've been doing in terms of your current meal plan, because you probably haven't put much conscious thought to it because it's been working for you for such a long time. Now, one of the third phases that's really common this is probably my favorite, right? This is the phase where self-hurting starts. So this happens particularly when people are really committed to change, they're really accountable, and they've got a lot of emotional intelligence. And what they do is they start to do this self-hurting. So what they do is they've committed, they've accepted, or resigned at least to the fact that they need to do the plan the way that it is, or with minimal changes. And they'll ask a question, and before you've had a chance to answer as a coach, they're like, well, I've said this, but I've gone and done it anyway, which was originally what you wanted them to do, which is great. So they're doing the self-hurting. So they've had a thought about it, they've voiced their resistance, they've had a thought about it, made a decisive moment, which is to accept that change and do it and make it work. And then you know what happens? They actually start to get results and they start to love it. So that's obviously my favorite one. Self-hurting means that they've accepted and they've taken accountability, and they'll find a way to make it work. And so they're building resilience. And then basically when you start to do that, you open yourself up. What you're starting to do is you're actually starting to always look at things around, how am I going to make this work, rather than what is this? So it's basically going from looking at something as a problem and going into solution mode, but also recognizing as well that there was some resistance, but making a decision in spite of that. So it's a very powerful stage, and of course results happen, and that's my favorite part.